calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. My whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Thanks.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
Hey, what do you say, friends? Great to see you today on a Monday, April 25. How about it? Here we go. The Bill Press Show coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and our studio right in the heart of the action on Capitol Hill so we can follow what's going on down the street at the Capitol building, either in the Senate or in the House. We can also follow what's going on down at the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue, down at the White House, and we'll take a look at the news across the country and around the globe, bring you all the news of the day, and give you a chance to talk about it. You know how to do so. Give us a call on our toll-free number at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. President Obama announcing this morning that the United States is going to dispatch 250 more special ops into Syria to combat ISIS. Of course, they are not combat troops. They are just fulfilling combat missions. To me, it's all in the definition. We have a war in Syria on top of a war in Iraq and a war in Afghanistan. Meanwhile, the Stop Trump movement has taken a new twist. John Kasich and Ted Cruz announcing that they have teamed up to stop Donald Trump in the upcoming primaries. Neither one is going to drop out of the race, but Ted Cruz is going to focus on Indiana, and John Kasich is going to stay out of Indiana, and he's going to focus on New Mexico and Oregon. We'll see how that works. Meanwhile, Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton all fighting for delegates in tomorrow's big contests in Rhode Island, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Delaware. Lots going on. Good to have you with us today on this Monday. Don't forget, give us a call at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay, so who's gonna do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
250 more special op forces into Syria. Announced by President Obama just a few minutes ago in a speech in Germany. Hello, everybody. That situation over there getting more and more serious. It is going to be harder and harder not to admit that we have a third war going on in Syria with more and more American forces being sent there, although, of course, the administration insists they are not combat forces. What do you say? A lot to chew on here on a Monday, April 25. So good to see you. And thank you for joining us here, The Bill Press Show. We are live with you on the radio, your local progressive talk station. Hello. And live with you on Free Speech TV as well. So good to see you today. Hope you had a great weekend and are ready to tackle the big stories of the day. Our base is Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, but actually we are there with you coast to coast. Again, right alongside of you on the radio, on television, everywhere in this great land of ours. And it is good to join you for the next 3 hours to talk about the news of the day and to give you a chance to sound off about it. You know how to do so. Use that phone of yours and our toll-free number, 866-55-PRESS, or just send us your comments on Twitter or on at BP Show, or on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. The entire team back together today with Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson leading the pack.
Happy Monday.
Hey, good morning. How about it?
Good to see you guys.
Everything good?
Yes, indeed.
Thank you for Friday's show.
Doing what I can.
Yeah.
Happy to have you back as always.
Got great reports about it. Ray Rogers here. She's back from a couple of days vacay to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS, and Cyprian Bolding on the job as always as our videographer. And I've got to say it was a great trip representing all of you at up in Ithaca.
Nice.
With all of our good friends from WNYY. Great group of people there. It's a great team. And we had a really good time at Coltivare.
Beautiful.
Thursday evening, downtown Ithaca. Yeah, nice crowd. And wonderful wines by Americana Wines.
There you go.
Grown right there in the Finger Lakes region. Right
on
beautiful. The shores of Lake Cayuga.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And
wait, did you not bring us any wine back?
No.
You drank
drank a lot. And by the way, and stayed again at La Tourelle, which is a wonderful little kind of sort of resort. I guess you call it a resort. Just up the hill from Ithaca, right near Ithaca College. And get this. So I had the room that was the home for 5 days of the Dalai Lama.
Really?
Whoa. How about that?
Really?
Whoa.
Wow.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I thought I saw a little glow about you today. There seemed to be an aura.
I had a very beatific stay.
I thought you were going to tell us that you had a haunted room.
Well, kind of.
In a way.
Haunted in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel any more enlightened?
Yeah, and I was wondering where all these people outside the room, they were chanting. What's going on? So I had to go out on the balcony, give them my blessing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
No, I love that area. It's a beautiful part of the country up there, and great people. So
nice.
Yeah, we need to go back to Ithaca more often. And meanwhile, yesterday, I'm going to tell you, man, it was gnat season. Boy, the gnats are red hot, and so the game yesterday. The final game against the Twins went on and on and on into 15 innings.
All the way to 16.
Oh, 16.
Ended up
it was still tied after 15.
Yeah.
It was tied. Then the Nats went. Then the Twins went ahead. Then the Nats tied it again. Then it goes into 16th inning, and Charlie Slows wraps it up here.
1-1, long drive, left center field, way back, going, and it's over. Chris Heisey walks it off. He puts it over the bullpen into section 101, and the Nationals win the ball game. 8 straight wins at home. They sweep the Twins in an amazing comeback victory.
8 straight wins at home, huh?
That's unbelievable, man.
Yeah. Good way to start the season.
Yeah.
It's got to slow down sooner or later, but
yeah.
We'll take it for now.
They'll start playing some teams that are a little bit better than the ones they've been playing, but for now, I'll take it. They look good.
It's a good team.
Yeah, they're not bad.
Yeah, right. So we got lots to talk about, and we will have some good help from Elias Isquith a little bit later in this hour from cafe.com. Remember, we're going to take a quick trip to Mars at the top of the next hour, catch up on the latest on that big scientific effort. And then reporters in from The Hill and from Politico, all about it. Donald Trump, now the target of a combined sneak attack by Ted Cruz and John Kasich, announced late last night. Will it work? But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Okay, so remember last week we told you about the story of the flight landing in London that was hit by a drone. Remember, there was a drone flying nearby and hit the airplane? Right. Well, here's the follow-up. Turns out it was probably not a drone. This is according to Transport Minister Robert Goodwill, admitted that authorities have done a thorough test and looked at the plane. They found no dents on the airplane, and they think that what hit the plane was a plastic bag. Oh, not a drone. This has not, by the way, stopped the conversation about whether or not to use what's called geofencing around airports, which would essentially shut down any drones from flying into that airspace. They're still having that conversation, but they say they've ruled out a drone, and it could have been something as simple as just a plastic bag. Yeah, right. One more reason to hate plastic bags. A new yearly survey took a look at your favorite grocery store chains. Any ideas on what the number one favorite around the country, number one favorite grocery store chain? Safeway is on the list at number 13. Publix is an excellent guess. That is number 2. Ooh. For the first year in 4 years, it is not Trader Joe's at the top of the list. Trader Joe's is number 3. Number 1 is Wegmans. Wegmans is now the number 1 grocery store chain in America, according to customer satisfaction. Now, Wegmans has been slowly expanding over the last couple of years. Also in the top 5, Hy-Vee at number 4 and Aldi at number 5.
Where does Whole Foods rank?
Whole Foods, I'm glad you asked, Jamie, not even in the top 15.
Wow.
There's not enough of them.
There's not enough of them, and I also think that it's a little
pricey,
exclusionary, I think. Not a lot of people view Whole Foods as a place to go. And we just talked about baseball. Let's talk about basketball, because we had a lot of it yesterday. It was the Warriors taking on the Rockets, which the Warriors won 121-94. That puts them up 3-1 in the series. However, Steph Curry left that game and is going to have an MRI today on his knee to see just how bad an injury is. That could be very, very bad news for the Golden State Warriors. Also, closing out their series yesterday, the Cavaliers Finished off the Pistons 100-98. They move on in 4 games, and the Spurs beating the Grizzlies 116-95. They close out that series 4-0. Also, the Celtics fought back. To beat.
I was just wondering if we were going to get around to
Footnote.
The Celtics. Yeah,
No, I could hear Jamie's head starting to get nearly explode if I wasn't going to mention the Celtics. Celtics won last night. They needed overtime to beat the Hawks 104-95. That series is now tied 2-2.
Wow.
Big basketball.
It's
day.
alive.
All right.
It's alive. It is alive.
You got it. Yes, indeed. Well, I'll tell you what else is alive is the competition on the Republican side. Yes, John Kasich and Ted Cruz teaming up to try to stop Donald Trump. Meanwhile, the primaries tomorrow kind of surround us, right? So you got Maryland, Delaware, and Maryland's kind of on both sides of Washington. So Donald Trump was over in Delaware, my home state. He was out in Hagerstown, Maryland, and he was up in Annapolis or Baltimore, up that area as well. And so it's getting kind of close. And Donald Trump actually said a couple of things over the weekend that I said, whoa, wait a minute, I might agree with Donald Trump on something. He talked about North Carolina's bathroom law, right, HB2, and actually came out and said, this is crazy, it's unnecessary, it is discriminatory, and Donald Trump said, as far as I'm concerned, transgender people should use whatever bathroom that they deem appropriate. And he said, what's her name, Jenner, Caitlyn Jenner, right?
Yeah, Caitlyn Jenner, yeah.
Walked in, right, to Trump Tower, he would just say, use whatever bathroom you want, whichever one very down-to-earth, kind of common sense approach. Donald Trump also, I don't know why he got into this, but in Delaware, over in Harrington, Delaware, at the State Fairgrounds, where I have never been, by the way, I might add, as a son of Delaware, he talked about a pet peeve of mine, and that is these call centers. When you call to get some help, either used to be, not so much anymore, booking a flight or getting help for your phone or whatever, you get connected to Mumbai.
Yeah.
So I called up under the guise I'm checking on my card. Said, where are you from? We are from India. Oh, great. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. That's all I need to, Bob.
Hangs up. Easy there. Easy there with putting on the accent. That's not a great look.
Not a great thing. But I must tell you, I have hung up several times when I call and get somebody from India, because particularly make an airline flight. Yeah. I know. They don't know the country. They do not know the routes. They don't know what they're talking about. Plus, damn it, those jobs ought to stay in America.
Yeah, totally.
No sense to export those jobs. Donald Trump also continuing to complain that the primary process is rigged.
It's a rigged system, believe me. It's a rig. And you probably read where Cruz is going, and he's whining and dining and dinners and hotels and all this stuff. He's bribing people, essentially, to vote.
Now, yeah, he still talks about that. But now, here's the latest, and just announced late last night, so it's breaking news this morning in a sense. Ted Cruz and first of all, there's been this effort, to stop Donald Trump, okay? They have these PACs. They spent millions of dollars trying to stop him. Hasn't worked so far. In fact, the latest numbers are Donald Trump has 845 delegates. Ted Cruz has 559. John Kasich has 148, but that's less than Marco Rubio, who's not running anymore, right? So they put up these PACs together, spending all this money. There's been a lot of talk about, okay, the way to stop him is Ted Cruz or John Kasich. Remember, Cruz has been trying to get Kasich to drop out. All right, well, the latest, neither one is going to drop out. But Ted Cruz and John Kasich have made a deal. They made a pact. They're going to cooperate, work together to stop Donald Trump. Here's the way it's going to work. John Kasich is going to stay out of Indiana. Now, his name will still be on the ballot.
Yeah.
He's going to give Ted Cruz Indiana as a chance to stop Trump. He's going to focus on. And then Ted Cruz is going to stay out of New Mexico and Oregon, and John Kasich will focus on those two states. So they think by, if you will, divide and conquer, they're going to be able to stop Donald Trump that way. Ted Cruz stopping him in Indiana, and then John Kasich stopping him in New Mexico and Oregon. My question to you is, do you think it'll work? 866-55-PRESS. Is there any way to stop this Trump freight train as it goes barreling through the rest of the primaries? I think not. I think it is too little, too late. And besides, it's based on a very, I think, phony supposition, which is that if Ted Cruz is not campaigning in New Mexico and Oregon, that all of his potential votes will go to John Kasich.
Immediately.
That's not going to happen. If they say Ted Cruz doesn't want my vote, a lot of them are going to go to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Right?
Look, politically, Ted Cruz is closer to Donald Trump than John Kasich, right? So you can't.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really hard to put the two of them in the same category as the sane alternative to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Ted Cruz is just as radical, if not more, than Donald Trump.
Now, John Kasich is different.
Yes.
But Ted Cruz, not so much. You're absolutely right. So this new strategy, right? Kasich and Cruz teaming up against Donald Trump. Do you think they can pull it off? Is this a good strategy? Will it work? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it here on this Monday on the Bill Press Show.
Your place to talk about the 2016 election. This is the Bill Press Show.
You taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that. Say hi!
How to hit a receiver.
Nice.
The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. The whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Thanks.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Make it 26 minutes after the hour here on the Bill Press Show this Monday, April 25. Yep. It's interesting. This news broke late last night. Front page of the New York Times about Ted Cruz and John Kasich teaming up to stop Donald Trump. The New York Times takes a pretty straightforward look at it. The headline on the front page, GOP rivals to coordinate against Trump. Cruz and Kasich strike a deal for the last states, agreeing to coordinate in future primary contests in a last-ditch effort to deny Donald J. Trump the Republican nomination. The Huffington Post says it a little more colorfully this morning, I think. Here's the headline there. Cruz, Kasich join forces to bust Trump. It only took them till late April. And that's a good question.
It's a really good. This is
what have they been waiting for? We said, if you remember, way back, check the tape, when there were 17 candidates on stage. I wrote a column about it. There's only one way to stop Donald Trump, and that's get down to mano a mano.
Yep.
One-on-one. Everybody else, I kept saying that. They said that ain't going to happen. Why should...
And that they all unify behind that one candidate.
Yeah, right.
But by the way, they still haven't unified behind one candidate. They're trying to with Ted Cruz, but
no, they've unified against one candidate.
Right, exactly.
But not in support of
exactly.
one. Right. And without that, they're never going to make it.
Nope.
No. And so, I mean, in a sense, Cruz was right that John Kasich ought to get out, but Kasich is right that Cruz ought to get out, meaning I think there's a greater contrast, as you just pointed out, Peter, a little while ago, between Donald Trump and John Kasich than there is between Donald Trump and Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
But the only way would have been for all the rest of them to get together and say, we got a real problem on our hands. This guy, like Trump, it looks like he could actually win the nomination and destroy the Republican Party. So we've got to, all of us, except one, got to decide who that person is going to be. The rest of us, we fall on our sword, and then we get together and we back that guy to save the Republican Party. They weren't willing to do it, and you know what? Now I think it is too late. Too late.
Yeah, I think so too.
Donald Trump is going to clean up tomorrow and get him that much closer to the nomination, which they won't be able to take away from him.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend.
As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday.
It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
All right, here we go now. 34 minutes after the hour, talking about in what to me does seem for sure like too little, too late. Ted Cruz and John Kasich coming to the realization, here we are in late April, oh my God, Donald Trump might actually win this thing. We can't stop him if both of us are running against him in all the states, and so we're going to split up the states, and Ted Cruz will take Indiana, John Kasich will take New Mexico and Oregon, as if that will work. What do you think? 866-55-PRESS out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Hello, Jack. What's up?
Good morning, Bill. Good morning, Peter.
Hey, now.
I wanted to figure this out. It's like Kasich and Cruz plotting against Trump.
Yeah.
That sounds like Mo and Larry plotting against Curly.
Yeah, well, Kasich is coming your way, Jack. Watch out. He's taking New Mexico on his own.
We'll get him out of the kitchen. We'll get all these women out of the kitchen.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's
like you
right.
said. Yeah. Uh-huh. So do you think it'll work? What's the strategy?
Oh, no, it's going to backfire.
Yeah. I think it is, too.
I'm as entertained as he is, man.
Oh, yeah.
It is entertaining.
Jack says, go, bring it on.
Yeah.
Bring it on. Yeah, indeed. How about out in Detroit? Hello, David. What's up?
Yeah, so I'm sitting here looking at this deal, and I'm thinking, if it took this long for these gentlemen to come up with this idea, and they say Donald Trump is bad for America, they are good for America, and it took them this long to get to this point, are they really the insightful, selfless leaders that one would want for the nation?
Well, also, no is a quick answer to that. But also, I mean, the idea that there's a big difference between John Kasich and Ted Cruz, right?
Yeah.
So the idea that John Kasich would say, okay, it's either one of us. Well, no.
Right.
That's a fundamental conflict, right? Inherent conflict.
There are a lot of people out there that are the anyone but Trump movement, right? And it's real and it's legitimate. And I think that if
hashtag never Trump.
Exactly. Yeah. You see a lot of prominent conservatives who are going down that path. But at the same time, those are the vocal and loud people who have a voice who could talk about it. But there are a lot of people who don't necessarily feel that way, right? They're voting for Trump because they think that Trump best represents them, as weird and twisted as that is. So if you're a Ted Cruz supporter and Ted Cruz says he's not going to compete in a certain state, it's crazy to think they'll automatically just vote for John Kasich.
Yeah.
It's just not the case.
No. Right. I think the Huffington Post gets it right. And it took them this long?
Yeah.
I mean, where the hell have they been?
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
I mean, really, you've been saying this since last year.
Yeah. And again, so now it's not like, okay, either Cruz or Kasich would be better than Trump. Yeah. No, there's a big difference between John Kasich and Ted Cruz. I think Ted Cruz is worse than Donald Trump, frankly. Hey, we can't ignore the Democratic side. On the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, of course, both campaigning. Hillary, we got a bounce out of New York for sure. And we got Rhode Island, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Delaware tomorrow for the Democrats. Bernie Sanders hoping to win, and most people are saying it looks like he'll win Rhode Island. He'd like to also upset Hillary in Pennsylvania, spending a lot of time in Pennsylvania. He was also in Delaware and Maryland over the weekend as well. I haven't seen him in Connecticut. He probably was. But Hillary was focusing more, when she was up in Rhode Island yesterday, focusing more on Donald Trump.
He actually says wages are too high in America. I mean, honestly, I don't know who he talks to. He ought to get out of those towers and actually come down and talk with people and listen to them.
Which is a good point. Trump to say, yeah. I mean,
he did say that, and I totally forgot about it. Right? Yeah, it's just like the flurry of crazy things that he said over the past several months.
Right.
I forgot about that one, but yeah, he totally said that.
Right. And Bernie, in the meantime, was saying, no, we're going to carry this thing all the way through and let every state vote. This is good for the party.
I believe it is good for the Democratic Party that we have a vigorous debate, that we bring more people into the process.
And what about it, Bernie? Are you going to... This question always comes up. Okay. He wins 8 in a row. right? 8 out of 9. And then Hillary wins one, and then right away the question is, are you going to drop out?
That's not going to happen. I am in this race to the end.
In this race to the end, in this race to let every state and every voter in every state exercise their choice. Now, though, the speculation has already shifted, front page of the New York Times yesterday, about who their running mates might be. Emphasis particularly on Hillary because she is ahead in the delegate count. And some of the names, I'd love to get your take on this at 866-55-PRESS. Some of the names mentioned are very interesting. Elizabeth Warren always comes up, right? But then the question is, could you have 2 women on a ticket?
Mm-hmm.
Why not, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Men have screwed it up for so long. Why not have 2 women on a ticket? I think that'd be great to have a female president and vice president.
That would send a message.
Sure would. But the bigger question there is, would Elizabeth Warren do it? Because she clearly has some differences with Hillary the same way Bernie does. But Elizabeth Warren's name has been out there. A lot of people ask me about whether Bernie would be just like, Obama, Hillary, right? They team up, not president, vice president, but secretary of state. I don't think there's any way that Hillary Clinton would offer the vice presidency to Bernie or that he would take it. I mean, that would be built in. They don't dislike each other, but they have some real differences on policy. And Bernie would be totally frustrated, particularly on foreign policy stuff, because Hillary is such a hawk. If you saw the New York Times Magazine yesterday, there was a big H on the cover, and it was H is for hawk, which, of course, is the name of the book about the bird.
Yeah.
The bestseller right now, but in this sense, Hillary.
Bernie wouldn't want that, and Hillary, I don't think she would want someone like Bernie on her back.
No. So some of the other names mentioned, interesting. I'd love to get your take on these, 866-55-PRESS. Mark Warner, senator from Virginia, or Tim Kaine, senator from Virginia, which would ostensibly help bring in Virginia back into the Democratic column. It's kind of a purple state now. Cory Booker in New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Deval Patrick, former governor of Massachusetts. Deval Patrick's got a problem. He works for Bain Capital.
Yeah,
I think. Pretty sure. Yeah. So I think that
maybe that's why Hillary likes him. Sorry.
But here's the other name. And by the way, there are tons of other names out there, right? The other name that I really like, Sherrod Brown.
Yeah.
Swing state, Ohio. He is almost as far left as Bernie. He's a certifiable. He and Bernie and Elizabeth Warren are the 3 strongest progressives in the Senate, no doubt about it. He's a great campaigner and a great person, good friend of ours. I think he'd be dynamite.
And all of the criticism that Hillary gets about not being liberal enough, I think he really helps make up some of that ground. He's a very progressive guy, smart guy, and will really put it out there.
Now, so we mentioned Cory Booker and Deval Patrick as a couple of African Americans. Also, the couple of Latinos under consideration, Joaquin Castro, who is now the HUD secretary and a rising star in the Democratic Party, and Tom Perez, who is the labor secretary and a long labor activist leader, particularly strong on the minimum wage, doing a good job as labor secretary. So there's a whole long bench, I would say, a strong bench of possibilities there. And most of those could be considered by Bernie as well. But we're not there yet. We got a few more states to get through the primaries first. Elias Isquith from Cafe.com standing by with his take on the latest political developments and more. We'll talk to Elias right after a quick break here on this Monday edition of The Bill Press Show.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that. Say hi.
How to hit a receiver. the strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go now. It's 12 minutes before the top of the hour on this Monday, April 25. Good time to check in with our friend Elias Isquith from cafe.com. Hello, Elias. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going this morning?
Pretty good, pretty good. So, John Kasich and Ted Cruz teaming up against Donald Trump here. What took them so long, and do you think it'll work?
I think what took them so long is probably Kasich's. I suppose the Kasich's fantasy of winning the nomination is finally sort of starting to break off from his consciousness, I guess. Although it's kind of hard to guess whatever's going on in John Kasich's mind, to be honest.
Yeah.
In terms of whether it's going to work, I mean, in some ways, I think one of the interesting stories of this Republican primary is the moving of the goalposts of what counts as sort of, you know, defeating Trump or what works. You know, it used to be the sense of the goal for taking out Trump was a lot more ambitious than trying to get Ted Cruz, you know, in the position of leadership within the party. I don't know. I don't think it's going to work because it just seems to me that so much of the never, you know, what is called the Never Trump movement, they never really had the numbers behind them. It was always a lot of sort of, can we change the conversation and can we kind of change expectations? And it seems like for whatever reason after New York, his victory there was so smashing that a lot of those people, and those people tend to be kind of like Republican intellectuals, conservative writers, so forth. It seems like the fight has kind of, they've lost the fight a little bit to me. What is your read on it?
Well, no, I mean, I think you're right. It's too little too late. And I mean, there was a time, 2 or 3 months ago at least, I wrote a column saying you cannot beat candidate A with candidate B, C, D, F, G, H, J, right? You can beat candidate A with candidate B, but you can't with so many. And now, even now, the two of them against him, I think, are just one too many, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, something that we've been talking about for months now at this point is that a lot of the kind of people behind this movement and the Republican elites who are really against Trump still won't grapple with is, you know, Trump's winning votes, and by which I mean, like, the party is the problem is their voters. If Trump is so unacceptable, they keep looking for any way to sort of pretend that he came from, you know, outer space and didn't get votes, and he's not reflecting, you know, their voter base.
And he could easily win every state tomorrow in this primary. You know, all these states kind of around New York or in the Middle Atlantic. That's Trump territory.
Totally. I grew up outside of Philadelphia and the suburbs, and I can tell you that I fully imagine that, you know, not in my old neighborhood, but near about more conservative areas, I'm sure he's going to clean up.
Right. So I have to ask you something. Now, this just broke this morning. I don't know whether you saw it, but President Obama speaking in Germany announcing that he's sending 250 additional special forces into Syria to combat ISIS. I mean, we're really at war in Syria, aren't we? I mean, they don't call them combat troops, but what the hell are they doing? They're carrying out combat missions in Syria, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, you remember when Obama first came about, and people were sort of looking for someone to compare him to him because he was such a great speaker and so charismatic and kind of youthful. The go-to comparison for a while, at least, used to be JFK. And, you know, at the risk of kind of falling back into an easy historical analogy, though, it's hard not for me at least, not to think about Vietnam in some sense, and the concept of mission creep, where once we kind of, as a policy, went all in and saying that we're going to take the lead on destroying ISIS and, you know, in a sense, fixing Syria. You know, I'm kind of worried to see the slow escalation, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I mean, we don't talk about it, and maybe it's because, you know, progressives don't want to say anything critical about Obama, but the war in Afghanistan, which was the war in Iraq, which was going to end, still lingers on, as we saw when an American killed there last week. It's not that there are that many casualties, but we still have combat troops in Iraq. The war in Afghanistan has now been extended for another year, at least, and now we have this third operation in Syria. So we are more entrenched in warfare in the Middle East than we were 8 years ago.
And you know, as you were talking about earlier on the show, I heard that really great story about sort of Secretary Clinton's views on foreign policy and her kind of comfort with going to military solutions, not as a last resort.
From the New York Times article yesterday.
Exactly, yeah. It does not give somebody. Put it this way, if she wins, she's going to walk into a situation where there's going to be lots of opportunities to send more American resources back into that part of the world.
Right. And we remember President Obama in his Atlantic magazine article said that the biggest foreign policy mistake he made was following Hillary's advice and going into Libya. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was. What did he try to say? He tried to say that it was without a plan, you know, afterwards, which is you know, he's certainly not George W. Bush, but that's basically the same thing that the Bush administration said once it went bad in Iraq. The idea was fine, we just didn't have a backup plan.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
How when are we going to learn? You don't go in unless you do have an exit plan or a backup plan. Yeah, okay, man, I'm telling you. There we are, out of time already. Too bad. Elias, always great to catch up with you. Thank you so much. Cafe.com. We'll be following you.
All right, thanks as always.
All right, there he is. Cafe.com, Elias Siskowitz.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
For my 6th birthday, my grandpa gave me a Rubik's Cube. I'll always be able to remember its edges, hold it in my hands, heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I remember him telling me about it. How Rubik's Cube has 43 quintillion, 252 quadrillion, 3 trillion, 274 billion, 489 million, 856,000 possibilities. He told me it can be really confusing sometimes. But to look at the center squares as a reminder of what color each side should be. Shift. We're celebrating his 50th wedding anniversary. He and Grandma are dancing a dance that only fragile legs and wrinkled hands know how to. That type of happiness took him 70 years to earn. The white side of the cube is solved. Shift. He tells me about how he met Grandma. His college friends had a sunset picnic. She was there, as beautiful as an unsolved puzzle. She was a red-headed scramble on an orange tile sky. Shift. The walls of the hospital are blue. The nurses explain that his memories had become jumbled. Strangers in family portraits, pictures with mismatched faces. Alzheimer's has made his mind into a Rubik's Cube. Shift. He's a highway patrolman. His car is white. No, it's blue. He worked there for 30 years. Some nights he still does. Time is a complicated algorithm. Shift. The pills he holds are yellow and red and green. The weight of their color causes his hand to drop. I try to shift his tiles back into place, but people don't have center squares. His mind is a hospital bed divided by 0. Shift. My sister's wedding is white, but he doesn't know why. Shift. World War II is every color. The South Pacific is blue. The islands are green. There is so much red. Shift. Grandpa, table, cube, name, scramble, California, guitar, grapefruit highway, wedding bell, war, stick shift rifles, South Pacific mirrors. Shift, 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 shift. The temperature of his hands is blue. Death is colorless. I will always remember his edges. Hold him in my hands, heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I was unable to attend his funeral. I never found out the algorithm to solve him. A Rubik's Cube has over 43 quintillion possibilities. A casket only has one.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Fly to Mars, top of the next hour. Big story on ABC's This Week yesterday. They sat down with Charles Koch, one of the Koch brothers, who said that he would consider supporting Hillary Clinton, saying that she might even be a better candidate, a better president than some of the Republican candidates out there. Now, it's interesting. Hillary did not waste much time in firing back, tweeting out, not interested in endorsements from people who deny climate science and try to make it harder for people to vote. So she's not that interested in getting an endorsement from one half of the Koch brothers. I don't believe Charles Koch for a second.
I don't either.
No. You know, he and his brother, two of the most dangerous people in this country, I think. And I wouldn't want his endorsement either. No.
There you go.
You talk about the kiss of death.
Yeah.
That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to hurt Hillary is what he's trying to do.
This is the Bill Press Show.
For Mike Brown. I'm sick of writing this poem, but bring the boy. His new name, his same old body, ordinary black dead thing, bring him. And we will mourn until we forget what we are mourning. And isn't that what being black is about? Not the joy of it, but the feeling when you're looking at your child, turn your head, then poof, no more child. That feeling, that's black. Think, once a white girl was kidnapped and that's the Trojan War. Later, up the block, Troy got shot and that was Tuesday. Are we not worthy of a city of ash, of 1,000 ships launched because we are missed? I demand a war to bring the black boy back no matter what his name is this time. I at least demand a song A song will do. Or a head.
You taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that. Say hi!
How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek, Newtown,
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Big announcement by President Obama early this morning. 250 more special op forces into Syria to combat ISIS. We haven't been told how many special op forces are already there, but the number is growing for sure. Hello, everybody. With that bit of breaking news, we begin here on Monday, April 25, the Bill Press Show. We begin our second hour together. And, you know, for every morning, 3 hours, we hopscotch around the globe, bringing you up to date on all the news of the day, whether it's from Washington, D.C., where you find us in our studio on Capitol Hill, just down the street from the United States Capitol building. Whatever's happening around the country and around the globe, we're also on top of. We'll tell you what's going on. You tell us what it means to you. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS, whether you're watching on Free Speech TV or listening on your local Progressive Talk radio station. And send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show, on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. And again, a big shout out to all of our good friends up on WNYY in Ithaca, New York. Had a great time up there last Thursday. A wonderful book event with a lot of our followers and listeners at Cultivare on South Cayuga Street. Good friends from Americana Vineyards were there with their great wines from the region. All in all, a wonderful, wonderful time. And thanks to our friends at La Tourelle, actually, also for putting us up for the night up in Ithaca. So I love that region. Love the people up there and can't wait to get back again. I've got a good team here, too, by the way. Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson. Hello, guys.
Hello.
Good
Happy
morning.
Monday.
Bad we all didn't go. We should have, we could have rented a bus and just driven up.
Party bus to Ithaca.
Maybe next time, right?
There you go.
Ray Rogers here. Take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. She's on the job, and Cyprian Bolding on the job as our videographer. And we welcome back to the studio today a good friend, head of executive director of the organization Explore Mars, Chris Carberry, to bring us up to date on that activity in that area. Hi, Chris. It's good to see you.
Great to be back on.
Nice to be back, to have you back. President Obama didn't go quite as far as Mars, but he was in Saudi Arabia and then in London. Now he's in Germany, coming back today. But the big reason for going to London was to help celebrate the Queen's 90th birthday. President Obama saying nothing was going to stop me from that.
Nothing was going to stop me from wishing happy birthday to Her Majesty. And meeting George.
Yeah, right.
Prince.
Who was adorable.
Prince George, please. Yes, indeed. He's about, 4 or 5 now? No, maybe?
He
4?
looked to be about, 4, I guess. I'm not sure how exactly.
The Obamas gave him a rocking horse as a gift.
I saw he was riding, and he was enjoying it. What I thought was really fun when the president and the first lady arrived on the grounds of the palace, the the Queen and Prince Philip greeted them, and then they climbed in the car, the Queen and Michelle in the back seat, and the President in the passenger seat, and the Prince drove.
That's a weird thing.
Yeah, but I mean, the White House and
We don't do
President.
that here.
No, we don't do that here.
The royals, they're just like us.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Right. Just like us.
And the Prince drove the car into the castle, right? And they had tea or lunch, I don't know, whatever. Anyhow, we got lots to cover here. Yes, we'll bring you up to date on the latest on our mission to Mars with Chris Carberry. And then at half hour, Jeff Shapiro is going to join us from the Richmond Times-Dispatch to talk about Governor Terry McAuliffe's big move over the weekend to grant voting rights to 200,000 plus ex-felons in the state of Virginia. But first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. More bad news for Johnny Manziel, NFL quarterback, occasional NFL quarterback. He is a man without a team. It turns out his agent has now left him, but over the weekend, breaking news, a jury has actually indicted him on misdemeanor assault charges. This all stems back to an argument he had with his girlfriend in Dallas earlier this year, which the police were called, and there is enough evidence there to actually charge him with assault. So more bad news for him. It's no good stories coming out of the Manziel camp.
I hope his career is kaput.
He needs to just go away and get out of the limelight and clean himself up, because it's a mess. It's a total mess. Former Pennsylvania Senator Tom Wofford wrote a very interesting op-ed in this weekend's New York Times. He was married for many, many years. His wife passed away in 1996, and he wrote an op-ed saying that he is getting remarried to a man. He is 90 years old, and he is marrying a 40-year-old man, his boyfriend of a couple years, and they're getting married now. It's a fascinating read, his op-ed in the New York Times, but, he was a married, straight, Democratic senator from Pennsylvania for many, many years.
And one of the founders of the Peace Corps.
That's it.
Yeah, wonderful guy.
Absolutely. Yeah, very cool, very interesting story.
Take some courage.
Yeah, absolutely. And a giant sigh of relief here in Washington, D.C., as the Washington Capitals, the hockey team, managed to put away the Philadelphia Flyers yesterday. Of course, you know about the curse that hangs over Washington hockey. They have a very, very hard time getting out of these rounds where they go up 3-0 in a best-of-4 series or best-of-7 series. And so they won 3. Then the Flyers won 2.
Yeah.
And everybody in D.C. started getting very nervous, but no need to be nervous about that particular series anymore, because they closed that game out yesterday. 1-0 was the final. They move on to face the Penguins.
And what did it sound like?
Good afternoon, and good night, Philadelphia. The Capitals have eliminated the Philadelphia Flyers.
There you go.
All right, yeah.
Someone was pretty excited about that.
Indeed. Everybody in Washington pretty excited. All right, so Chris, what is what's the latest? We've talked about this before. Have we made any progress? Are things still moving along? Is there still a target date for the first? Do we still call it manned or personed mission?
We generally call it human missions to Mars.
Thank you. All right, human mission. I knew the manned was not.
It's very complicated. Some people call it
correct anymore.
Some people call it crewed, meaning the crew, but then you kind of get confused with the word crude.
Right.
What is a crewed mission to Mars?
Right. Yeah. All right.
And so
human mission to Mars. I like that.
That'll work.
Yeah. What are we looking at? What's
so we are making good progress still. The policy of the United States is to land humans on Mars in the 2030s. And there are good technical progress going on. Commercial players are getting involved as well. But frankly, more than the engineering and the science, the biggest challenge isn't necessarily that. I know you'll be shocked, but policy, keeping a program going through multiple administrations is our biggest challenge now. We've been making some building momentum for the last few years. We seem to have more support for this than I think we've ever had. But the big question is, can we keep this momentum going on into the next administration?
Right.
We've had a history of starting a program, moving along, and then the next administration comes in, and then they hit the reset button, and then we kind of scrap everything we worked on for the last few years and then start a new direction. Obviously, we don't want to do that right now. A lot of things need to be done. The next administration can have a tremendous impact. We still have a lot of big gaping holes on how we're going to get from here to there, and the next administration working with Congress can certainly help that. But what we don't need is them coming in and saying, well, we don't like this direction, let's start from scratch again.
All right, so are we talking about 100% government program, and can we afford it? Or are we talking about maybe getting the private sector involved?
Yeah, certainly we'll have the private sector involved. We'll probably do an international partnership as well. So this will definitely be a partnership, different than the Apollo program, which was, straight out government with 100% NASA. And we were doing that for entirely different reasons. This time, most people are assuming we will partner with our international collaborators that we work with on the International Space Station. But as you mentioned, with commercial sector, there are a lot of interesting players out there right now also. So I see over time more and more activity from commercial. So it'll be a hybrid approach as we move forward. And we can afford it. It's certainly something, it would be something that wouldn't be much more than NASA's already getting right now. The biggest issue is, can we keep that consistency going? If we keep changing directions, then we never actually get anything done.
So is it SpaceX? Is that the big one?
SpaceX is one of them, and SpaceX has not been shy at stating that their goal is getting humans to Mars.
Right.
And actually, Elon Musk has stated lately that he plans to provide more details on his Mars plans later this year in September at a big conference in Mexico.
Wow. Now, do we have the technology or the missiles or the power capable of getting a person to Mars or a crew to Mars?
Well, we couldn't go right now to Mars, but we have the hardware in development right now. Not all of it, but a good chunk of it. Now, for instance, NASA's building the SLS rocket, which is supposed to launch for the first time late 2017 or into 2018, which will be the largest rocket ever built. Once again, going back to SpaceX, SpaceX is also building a lot of rockets, which they claim will be able to bring us to Mars as well. And there are also crew vehicles.
Are they going to test it first? I mean, just send up a dummy, if they could get it there? Wouldn't you like to have somebody
that's a good point, sure.
test it before you put people on one?
All the way to Mars, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of debate on that and how much testing we can do. It's a long trip there. So some people have actually proposed sending First off, would be using what NASA calls the proving ground, where we go a little further out each time into cislunar space. But some people have also proposed going into Mars orbit first, test out all the systems, and also maybe allow us to go into the Mars system before we've developed some of the key technologies like landing on Mars. Most of the engineers I talk to consider the landing on Mars to be the biggest challenge. We've only, the largest mass we've landed on Mars was the Curiosity rover. Well, landing people will be probably 20 to 40 times bigger, and we don't know how to do that quite yet. Lots of good concepts, but we need to do a lot of work.
So one of the ideas is to go up and orbit the planet, but then come back.
Yeah,
right?
orbit
without landing.
Without landing, or land on Phobos or Deimos, the Martian moons, which are essentially like asteroids orbiting Mars. I'm not sure that I'm a big advocate of that, but it's been one of the...
If you can land on an asteroid, why couldn't you land on the planet?
A lot less gravity. It's Phobos and Deimos.
Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah.
Duh, Bill.
Yeah, I know. Come on, what are you thinking? If you'd only thought that through. Phobos and Deimos are essentially captured asteroids, so they have very little gravity. So a lot of folks think you can almost like docking with them rather than landing because you're just approaching them. Mars is a big gravity well. It's not as strong as Earth, but it still takes a lot of effort to get down to the surface and then a lot of effort to get off the surface. And so that's one of the biggest challenges right now, figuring out how we're going to get astronauts safely on the surface and then back up and off back to Earth.
I'm just thinking, if we're talking the 2030s, right, and this is 2016, So the astronauts who are going to be on that mission are probably like in middle school now or something.
Could
right?
be, at least some of them.
Your kids,
My
Peter.
kids, yeah, sure. There you go.
Are they training yet?
Not yet. You can take them. You can work on them. Get them all ready to go.
You said it's going to take a long time to get there. How long?
With current technology, it takes between 6 and 8 months to get there. Then 6 to 8 months back, and then generally we're looking at probably a year and a half on the surface. So it's you're making a commitment of about 2.5 to 3 years if we're going to Mars. It's a long trip.
Wow.
Yeah.
What happens to the spaceship while you're on the planet?
Well, depending on the mission design you have, but
Yeah.
generally, first off,
I mean, do you come back on the same ship you go there on? Or do they send another one up after?
Well,
you?
they will probably. Current thinking right now is to pre-position a return vehicle, and so you would land the return vehicle on the surface before you even get there, so you actually have a functional crew vehicle. But there's a lot of different thinking on this. The best way of doing it, that's one way. One would always have a constantly orbiting asset that you would fly to, which would bring you back. So. There's a lot of different thinking on this right now. And like, for instance, Buzz Aldrin for many years has advocated something called a cycler, which would it would be a vehicle that would continuously go around orbit between Earth and Mars. So you'd catch the cycler, each time you wanted to go. So it would be constantly going back and forth. So
sort of like the circulator bus in Washington. I mean.
Exactly.
What's funny, as you talk
shuttle.
about this, a lot of that stuff that you're talking about was featured in the movie The Martian.
Yes,
which was a fun movie. But it's funny to see like how it's hard to say did they get it right because it is sort of fantasy at this point, but. I mean, that was all pretty well based in science, right?
It was, compared to virtually every other movie. It was pretty realistic, and you are right. The system that they were using was pretty much a cycler, same vehicle, so they would just continually, make the trek back and forth and change astronauts. So Andy Weir, who wrote the book, did do his homework a lot. It wasn't perfect, but it was also fiction.
Yeah. So. All right, so hold on there right now, Chris. Just hold on, and we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will tell you how you can sign up for this trip to Mars or sign up for the big summit on Mars coming up next month here in Washington, D.C. We'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
Taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that. Say hi!
How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. Taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
She calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. Our whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Next.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 26 minutes after the hour with Chris Carberry, the executive director of Explore Mars. Find out more at exploremars.org. Is there any one of the presidential candidates that you believe is the number one that you would trust most to be supportive of the of the space program?
That's a good question, and it's hard to say right now. And most of them have been avoiding the issue, and if perfectly honest, I don't mind that they're avoiding the issues.
I haven't heard any of them talk about it.
Yeah,
I haven't either.
There's been way back a number of months ago, early in the primaries up in New Hampshire, a few of them were asked the question, and gave general answers, most of which fairly supportive. But I wouldn't say right now that, I would go out on a limb and say, oh, this one's stronger than other. I'm just hoping, we're just trying to provide them all with, the facts, make sure that they have the proper information in front of them, so when one of them does occupy the White House, they can make good decisions.
Tell us about your summit next month.
Yep. So we have the Humans to Mars Summit, George Washington University on May 17th through 19th. And this is a big event, biggest conference in the world focused on sending humans to Mars. And very important year, as we were alluding to with candidates, we want to make sure to show policymakers, the candidates, and the general public, not only is this an achievable goal, it can be affordable, it can be afforded by U.S. taxpayers and commercial, but it's achievable. So we have an amazing lineup on the first day. We have high-ranking folks from NASA, industry, and then we also try to bring in students and STEM educators, into the audience.
Got to stop you there, and people can find out about it by going to exploremars.org, right?
Correct.
Exploremars.org. It's May 17, 19 at George Washington University. Chris Carberry, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
I'll see you on Mars.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine.
Virginia Tech.
Tucson.
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Oak Creek.
Newtown.
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 How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act. Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go, 33 minutes after the hour, April 25 on a Monday. Good to have you with us on your local progressive talk radio station, coast to coast. And great to see you on Free Speech TV as well, nationwide. It's the Bill Press Show. You'll find us on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., in our studio, right down the street from the United States Capitol building, where we're brought to you today by the International Association of Firefighters, the great men and women of our firefighting departments across the country under President Harold Schaitberger. They put on the uniform every day to keep us safe, do a great job of it. We salute them for their good work and thank them for their support of the program. Governor Terry McAuliffe from Virginia making a big announcement, got a lot of national attention over the weekend. Jeff Shapiro, a good friend of ours, political reporter from the Richmond Times-Dispatch, joins us on a news line this morning to tell us all about it. Hi, Jeff. Good to have you back on the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So, what was the governor's announcement? How many people did it include, and whatever the ramifications?
The governor signed an executive order on Friday morning in which he restored en masse the voting and civil rights of 206,000 felons, violent and nonviolent. This is a big story in Virginia because rights restoration is an issue handled on a case-by-case basis.
Huh.
And though governors, Democratic and Republican, in recent years have accelerated the consideration of these restoration appeals, petitions, if you will, no Virginia governor has issued an executive order that restores to all felons who have completed their penalties their rights, civil and voting, simultaneously.
Well, how can the governor do this by executive order? Wouldn't this require an act of the legislature?
Virginia's Constitution gives the governor the power to, by declaration of office, to lift obstacles to full participation in citizenship, and that includes the restoration of voting and civil rights for felons who are automatically stripped of that when they are convicted.
Right. Now, you used a key phrase there when you were explaining exactly what the governor did. This does apply to nonviolent and violent felons as well, right? I mean, so people who might have been serving time for murder or for rape, whatever?
And this is a point that the Republicans who are seeing red, and I don't mean just in the partisan color code variety about this, that, and some of them have actually said this, that juries will now include rapists, murderers, and pedophiles.
And is there any way, or was there any conversation with the governor about saying, okay, these particular felons will have their voting rights restored, but not those convicted of these other crimes?
This gets down to the heart, the key here of this issue, and that is how long does a state like Virginia continue to punish people? If one has completed one's penalty, even for a violent crime, this is the administration's position, is it not fair and just to restore that individual's rights? By doing this on a case-by-case basis, of course, it means it is slow, it means it is incremental, and it means there are far fewer people added to the voting rolls in Virginia. Now, there is some question as to how many of these individuals are actually going to register, and then how many will actually vote.
Right.
And there's a good deal of speculation based on some studies by some scholars at Stanford and Penn that would suggest, using North Carolina as an example, during the Obama cycle, North Carolina, a state that is very similar demographically to Virginia, that in the end, relatively few register and even fewer vote. In North Carolina, as memory serves, only 33% of these former felons actually applied to exercise the franchise, and then only 21% of them did.
Wow. Yeah, 21%. Now, what about the racial makeup of these people who've been pardoned? Not pardoned, but given their voting rights restored?
Well, there's no doubt that the majority of them are African American. The percentages might be on the order of 65, 70%, but there are large numbers of Latinos and Asians also in Virginia's prison system, so that would likely carry over to the ranks of those who have completed their penalties.
Now, I got a call when this happened right away from a friend of mine who said, look at this. Terry McAuliffe is doing whatever he can to help Hillary Clinton win the primary in Virginia and win the election. That little bit of cynicism, I'm sure you've probably heard it as well. Could that be behind the governor's motives?
Well, clearly, Governor McAuliffe, as a member of the Clinton Privy Council, wants to deliver Virginia, a battleground state for Mrs. Clinton.
Had a fundraiser for her at his home recently.
Yes, featuring Carole King. By the way, that was not one of the political events that the governor's staff announced to the press. One wonders why. However, the polls, public opinion polls, and they're merely a curiosity at this point, indicate that Mrs. Clinton against Mr. Trump or Senator Cruz carries this state. Is it an insurance policy? Perhaps, but the likelihood of the race coming down to fewer than 30,000 votes in Virginia is fairly unlikely, given that Barack Obama carried this state twice by nearly 150,000 votes. It is clearly an issue that is a potent talking point for both parties. The Democrats can run around and tell anyone who wants to listen that they're all about small d democratizing the process, getting as many people involved as possible. And in Virginia, the more people who participate, the better the Democrats do. The Republicans will be running around saying that this is nothing more than a cynical gesture, a cynical effort by the governor to deliver Virginia for his friend Hillary Clinton, and that, of course, will get the Republican base all jazzed up.
Right.
Of course, in Virginia, Republicans do better when fewer people participate. Witness 2014, when Ed Gillespie came within less than a percentage point of nearly defeating Mark Warner for the U.S. Senate.
Right. So, but as you point out, there's no guarantee that all of these people, or even a high percentage of them, will A, register, or B, vote. And there's also no guarantee that they'll all vote Democratic, right?
This is true. I think it's probably relatively safe to assume that those who participate, who avail themselves of these new privileges, will likely vote Democratic.
As a Democrat. Is there any way, pardon me again, we're talking with Jeff Shapiro, political reporter for the Richmond Times-Dispatch, online at richmond.com. Is there any way the legislature could overturn this, or take this right back? I mean, overturn the governor's actions?
Well, Woody Allen said that in sex and politics, timing is everything, and the governor's order came 2 days after the legislature quit for the year. So it is unlikely that the legislature can do anything about it in 2016, but in 2017, when Virginia will be choosing Mr. McAuliffe's successor. Remember, Virginia has this odd, only in Virginia rule under which Virginia governors can only serve a single non-renewable term, that when the legislature convenes in that election year, there'll be lots of legislation originating on the Republican side, one will assume, addressing this issue, and Governor McAuliffe will likely be vetoing it.
Yeah.
The other options, perhaps going to court or even a constitutional amendment. Constitutional amendment would take some time, several years at least. And then the idea of litigation, it's not exactly clear how one could get into the courts. It's not clear if there's actually an injured party here, that someone could demonstrate standing and get a judge to hear this case and perhaps get it to the Supreme Court for a quick decision.
Yeah. But, well, personally, I think it's a bold move on the part of Terry McAuliffe's part, on the part of Terry McAuliffe, and a good move, and we'll see what other states follow. But it's going to be very, very interesting. They're starting in Virginia. Hey, Jeff, thanks so much for bringing us up to date. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Jeff Shapiro at the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Quoting Woody Allen. You can't go wrong quoting Woody. I saw a great Woody Allen quote the other day. I was doing some research. It was about legacy. Like he said, yes, I could live on in the hearts and minds of people, but I'd rather live on in my apartment. It's not ready to die.
Pretty great.
All right, we'll be right back.
Can't catch the entire show? Listen to BP in 3, where we turn 3 hours into 3 minutes. Find it every day at BP Show on Twitter or at BillPressShow.com.
You taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that. Say hi.
How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay, so who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Minutes before the top of the hour. Another Super Tuesday tomorrow with primaries coming up in Rhode Island, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and Maryland. And Donald Trump expected to do well in those states after bouncing off his big victory, his big win in New York last week. Donald Trump is getting a little pressure to act presidential, but he did admit, that might take all the fun out of his rallies if he acted too presidential.
If I acted presidential, I guarantee you that this morning I wouldn't be here. And somebody else would be here, not in a big room like this. Somebody else would be here, and you'd be in a conference room, and they'd be talking to you.
You guys, in other words, he said that at the state fairgrounds in Delaware, Harrington, Delaware, my home state, that people wouldn't turn out if it were going to be pretty boring, right?
He's right.
Yeah, he is absolutely right. But Ted Cruz, of course, couldn't resist pointing out, this just proves he's a phony.
Usually politicians do that after they're elected. Donald is doing it right now, saying he's a phony.
These two.
Oh, the two of them. But the big news of the day, announced last night, actually, and it's dominating the political discussion this morning, is, all right, there's been a movement to stop Donald Trump, the Never Trump movement. And they've created PACs for this purpose, and they've raised millions of dollars, Republicans, that is, who are concerned about having Donald Trump as their nominee, rightfully so. They've raised millions of dollars to try to stop him. Hasn't worked yet. So now, and there was talk for a long time about everybody else getting out of the race except one person, right? And unite behind that one person, which, of course, they've never done. Ted Cruz trying to get John Kasich out for that reason. Kasich won't go anywhere. So now they've come up with another strategy. The latest is that Ted Cruz and John Kasich have made a deal. They have joined made a pact. And the pact is that they will stay out of each other's way. They will team up to stop Donald Trump. And here's how they're going to do it. Indiana, coming up on May 3rd or 10th. I forget now what. So John Kasich is going to stay out Indiana and leave it to Ted Cruz. And then you move on to New Mexico and Oregon, and Ted Cruz is going to stay out of those two states and leave it up to John Kasich, right?
Flawless plan.
Flawless plan. I think it is a stupid plan, and it's not going to work. It's based on the assumption that, first of all, remember, their names are going to stay on the ballot. Mm-hmm. Their names will be on the ballot.
They already have a presence in those states.
Right. But by not campaigning there, that's based on the assumption then that all the non-Trump people, I guess, or non-Kasich people, or all the let me get it straight. All the Kasich people in Indiana will automatically vote for Ted Cruz.
Right.
That's not the case.
That's their assumption.
That's their assumption. Or that all the Cruz people in Oregon and New Mexico would automatically vote for John Kasich and not Donald Trump. You know what? In all three of those states, some of those people are going to vote for, first of all, the guy that they already back.
Yeah.
Because Cruz will still be on the ballot.
Right.
You could still vote for him.
If you believe in it strongly enough, you'll go ahead and vote for him.
And if they don't vote for Cruz, a lot of them are going to vote for Trump because Trump is closer to Cruz than John Kasich is.
Without a doubt.
I mean, so it doesn't add up. You know what? I think this is the desperate last moves of a group of Republicans who didn't do what they should have done early on, which is take Donald Trump seriously, and at that time, unite behind one strong challenger to Donald Trump, and they might have been able to stop him. Right now, too late. President Obama, a busy day in Germany before he heads home here today. We'll tell you all about it when we come back on the Bill Press Show.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, we're getting ready for hour number 3. Remember, hour number 3 on Free Speech TV is a little delayed until 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 Central, 2 Pacific, but you can watch it right away on TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TawkrTV. In the next hour, Niall Stanage from The Hill will be here in studio with us, as well as Sarah Wheaton from Politico. She covers the White House for Politico. 2 very, very knowledgeable, great reporters who covering the Washington scene, joining us in the third hour. You won't want to miss it. Stay tuned for hour number 3.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. My whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Thanks.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Niall Stanage from The Hill joins us at the top of the next hour, followed by Sarah Wheaton from Politico. President Obama, busy day in Germany before heading back to Washington. He met with Chancellor Angela Merkel today, toured a trade fair with her, and pledged the cooperation of the United States again in achieving a new transatlantic trade deal with the EU. Then he is meeting with President Hollande of France and Prime Minister Cameron from England and Prime Minister Renzi from Italy. He made some news, of course, with Prime Minister Cameron by saying that the UK should stay in the EU, stirred up a little political storm in England. And then he hops on Air Force One and will be back here in Washington, arriving at Andrews Air Force Base about 7 o'clock tonight. Back with Niall Stanage from The Hill.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. The whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Next.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Announced by President Obama this morning, 250 additional special op forces being sent into Syria to combat ISIS. Hey, hello, everybody, with that bit of breaking news. Here we are with The Bill Press Show on this Monday, April 25. Great to see you today. Thank you for being part of the program here on your local progressive talk radio station, nationwide, and also coast to coast on Free Speech TV. Good to see you. I hope you had a great weekend. Ready to dive into all the big news of the day. Lots going on the political front particularly. And we'll bring you up to date on all of that from our position here on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., and our studio just down the street from the United States Capitol building. We want to hear from you as to what it all means to you. 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number. Use it. Give us a call or just send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show, on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. And a big shout out to all of our good friends up in Ithaca, New York, where I was on Thursday evening. With the great gang from WNYY. They put on a great event at Coltivare on South Cayuga Street. And our good friends from Americana Winery were there with fine wines of the Cayuga Lake region. We're going to get them down to the studio here someday.
Anytime.
I want to share the bounty with all of you as well.
I'd love to.
And also a big thanks to Scott and his gang at La Tourelle, beautiful resort outside of Ithaca, where I was able to stay again for this visit. I love the people up there, love that region. It's a beautiful part of the world, and it was great to be back. And it's great to be back with Team Press here this morning, Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Hey.
Hello. And Peter, a lot of people told me Thursday evening what a good job that you've been doing, filling in. So.
Oh, thank you.
Wow.
Happy to do it. Although I'm glad you're back.
Yeah, next time I just send Peter on these trips. Right? They don't want to see me.
He's your body man.
That's it.
I need a body man.
Yeah.
Right? Ray Rogers is here to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Cyprian Bolding on the job as our videographer. And a good friend from The Hill, Niall Stanage, in studio with us this morning to cover the news of the day. Niall, it's always good to see you. Thank you.
Glad to be here, Bill.
Everything good with The Hill?
Everything is fine. All going splendidly as far as I know.
We always tell you, now remember, I've got a certain bias here because I write a column for The Hill, but there's no better source for your information on what's going on here in the nation's capital, actually around the country on the political scene, but particularly here in Washington. Either end of Pennsylvania Avenue, on the Congress or the Hill, or the White House, go to thehill.com. You have been writing a lot about Donald Trump lately. Mm-hmm. He had, I thought, a very kind of candid remark yesterday. We've heard him talk about Lyin' Ted a lot. Lyin' Ted.
Sure.
So Donald Trump basically said, he's just faking it. Here he is.
Right now, I don't like Lion Ted Cruz. But you know what? In about 4 or 5 weeks from now, I think he's going to be one of my best friends. I mean, that's the way I work.
He's basically saying it's all showbiz.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, and he may well be right. I mean, obviously, we've a whole history of people, having very contested primaries and coming together. Whether Ted Cruz will actually come around to Donald Trump, though, is an interesting.
But let's not forget, there's plenty of theater on both sides. Remember a couple months ago with Ted Cruz and his tweet about how the media just want to see him and Donald Trump in a cage match, and it's not going to happen because Donald Trump is terrific. That's what Ted Cruz said not that long ago, and now, I mean, he's a phony, he's a huckster, he's a cheat, he's all these things.
No, I love it. And I can't wait to see Little Marco and Lion Ted on stage with Donald Trump, right? All smiles.
Well, of course, there are a lot of people, not among the candidates, but among the broader Republican Party, who are saying they would actually avoid the convention if it nominates Trump.
Yeah.
So that's a way out of having to be pictured on stage with the Donald if he claims the nomination.
Right. Now here with us for the first half hour, Sarah Wheaton from Politico will join us at the half. But first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Okay, so I'm not condoning this behavior, but we've maybe all been there. When we were younger specifically, if you go into a restaurant and they give you a cup, or you say, I just want water, and then you go to the soda machine and you fill it up with soda, right? I've done that before. It's been a long time. But there was a guy who actually pulled this off in Springdale, Arizona. 18-year-old guy named Cody Morris. He did that, and they called the police, and he has been arrested.
What? Really?
He got arrested for stealing because he said, I want a water cup because it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
And then he went over and kept filling it up with soda, and they told him to stop, and he didn't stop. So they finally called the police. They showed up, and they arrested him. So be careful out there.
A little cup of soda.
Little cup of soda.
Yeah, but over and over again. He's probably real smug about it.
I'm not saying...
I've done it, but come on.
I'm not saying he should be arrested. I'm saying he should absolutely take some heat for it. But,
prosecutorial discretion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I don't like this guy. I'm not a defender of this guy, but I also feel like they might have gone a little too far.
I've never done that.
You've never done that?
No.
I did when I was a teenager, but I did a lot of things I'm not proud of. That's the least of it.
Stop. Don't tell us.
All right, so last week, a woman went on Maury Povich's show because she's trying to find out the father of her child. She said it could be one of 5 men. They put up her picture. Her name is Circe Hayes. She's from Natchez, Mississippi, and she looks like a female version of Ted Cruz. I'm not making this up. So the internet ran wild with it. You see these photos side by side of her and Ted Cruz. We'll tweet out a link if you haven't had it. But we found out over the weekend this story took a turn. Miss Hayes has been offered $10,000 to make an adult video, and she has accepted. Ooh. She is going to make an adult film with her boyfriend, who I'm not sure if that's the father of her child or not. Maury, I didn't watch the results on Maury, but she's going to make an adult film with this guy. So if you ever wanted to see a woman who looks just like Ted Cruz in an adult film, this is your time. This is your time. That is an oddly specific kink.
Wait, you told us last week about this guy wearing the Donald Trump wig who was in that.
There was a guy, they were making the Donald Trump porn.
That's a porno. You choose your candidate, we have a porno film for you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You remember there was one, who's nailing Palin?
That's right.
Yeah, they did a Sarah Palin.
Right.
I think it was the first big one.
Marco Rubio, do we have? No?
Little Marco.
Please, Little Marco.
Good God.
And if you have, or if you are gluten-free, if you don't eat gluten-free, but you like Chick-fil-A, they're working on a solution for you. Chick-fil-A is officially the very first fast food restaurant to be working on a gluten-free bun. They say that it's for people with celiac disease or gluten sensitivities, and they are rolling it out. They're testing it out in Idaho, Mississippi, and Washington State, and they are just not putting gluten in it. They figured out a way. They think that it's still tasty. And no other fast food restaurant has done this, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays.
Hey, Peter, do you remember our grilled chicken debate?
Yeah, I do, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. So a while back you were out, Bill. I have an argument that Chick-fil-A grilled chicken is still chicken. You can
The
go
chicken
to
nuggets.
Chick-fil-A
They
and
have
order
grilled
it.
chicken nuggets.
He doesn't think that it counts as chicken since it's not fried.
No, it's got to be fried chicken nuggets. They're not nuggets. They're little pieces of grilled chicken.
What do you think it is? Tofu?
Well, no, it's chicken. I do think it's chicken. I just don't think that they're nuggets.
They're still nuggets.
All right, I don't want to get into this. And I am
like
going
Chick-fil-A.
to refrain from making any comments about the gluten-free fakers.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
They're out there.
Niall, what's going on with this latest effort on the part of Ted Cruz and John Kasich teaming up against Donald Trump? It's a little late in the game, isn't it?
It is very late in the game, which of course is why they're doing it. I mean, Trump refers to it as a matter of desperation, I think, in all caps and with exclamation marks in his statements. But yeah, it is very late in the game. Obviously, those two candidates, Kasich and Cruz, have not shown any great affection for one another up until this point, and they represent pretty much opposite poles within the Republican Party, but they see it as the only possibility of stopping Trump. I'm skeptical myself as to the likely success of that strategy, but they're going to give it a go.
You know, as Huffington Post says in this headline this morning, did they have to wait until late April, right, to come up with this strategy?
Right. I mean, I assume they were thinking that Trump would fall short, and then that has become less likely, particularly in the wake of his very big victory in New York. He's going into all these all 5 states on Tuesday where he would fancy his chances.
Isn't the fatal flaw in this strategy, as we've been discussing this morning, that the assumption is that all the potential Cruz voters in Oregon or New Mexico will then automatically vote for John Kasich?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it is, particularly given the ideological differences between those candidates.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I would have assumed just, anecdotally or from their general standpoint that Ted Cruz supporters would be as likely to go for Donald Trump as a second choice as they would John Kasich.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a bit of a difficulty with that.
All right. Now, for his part, Donald Trump, as you say, building on a huge win in New York, with 5 states that are roughly, in the New York area, either New England or Mid-Atlantic. So he is trying to be, at least getting some pressure to be more presidential. Donald Trump pointed out yesterday at in Delaware, in Harrington, Delaware, at the state fairgrounds, that there's a problem if he's too presidential.
If I acted presidential, I guarantee you that this morning I wouldn't be here. And somebody else would be here, not in a big room like this. Somebody else would be here, and you'd be in a conference room, and they'd be talking to you.
Believe me. Believe me.
Believe me.
Believe me.
Right? So the showman is saying, right, if I were as boring as these people want me to do, nobody would come to my rallies. Yeah. He's right.
He is right. I mean, one of the interesting things about Trump is when he occasionally breaks through and sort of starts commenting on himself in a way, not just in the sense of I'm great, but in the sense of, look, if I was boring and sober-minded all the time, who would bother to come see me? He does have a real point there. At the same time, his campaign has been indicating that he's going to try to be at least somewhat less antagonistic toward the Republican National Committee and toward delegates and so on. And it's a bit of a fine line to walk. He wants to do both those things.
Right. Now, one thing, sometimes, as you point out, Trump does surprise you. When he was asked, forget now which interview it was, but it was on the Today Show late last week. He was asked about North Carolina's so-called bathroom law, HB 2, and Donald Trump surprised everybody by saying, "Oh, you've got it. Yeah, here he is."
There's a big move to create new bathrooms. Problem with that is for transgender. That would be first of all, I think that would be discriminatory in a certain way. It would be unbelievably expensive for businesses and for the country. Leave it the way it is.
So Donald Trump we don't need this law. It's unnecessary. It's discriminatory. Just leave it the way it is. And the transgender people should use whatever bathroom they want to, that they think is appropriate.
Yeah.
Now, this is Donald Trump certainly breaking ranks with all of his fellow Republicans.
Absolutely, as he has done to a certain extent, to be fair, on social issues and hot-button things before. He has given on a number of occasions and in a number of debates a kind of a qualified defence of Planned Parenthood, which is a completely viable case to make, but not generally a very popular case to make within the Republican Party. Similarly, with the North Carolina issue, he is clearly out of step, it seems to me anyway, with the majority of his party. Does that have any effect on the support he gets in this last segment of the primary campaign? Well, I guess we'll see.
And on same-sex marriage, I mean, he celebrated Elton John's marriage and a couple of other friends as well. So, I mean, that does give Ted Cruz some ammunition, I guess, but it also, I think, broadens Trump's appeal.
It does, yeah. He's not. I mean, Donald Trump can be caricatured for his Trumpness, but he's not actually, frankly, as right wing as Ted. I mean, Ted Cruz is a conservative ideologue and very proud of that fact. But Trump isn't really. Trump's just Trump, and some of his views are obviously very reactionary, but some of his opinions about social issues are much less so.
Right. Meantime, pressure building on Bernie Sanders, too, with these big primaries tomorrow. After not doing so well in New York, and Bernie bounced back. Niall Stanage is here with us from The Hill, thehill.com. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Look at the Democratic side of things here in 2016.
Your place to talk about the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
You taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that. Say hi!
How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. The whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Thanks.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go, 25 minutes after the hour. Sarah Wheaton covers the White House for Politico, with President Obama flying back in tonight. We'll catch the latest with Sarah Wheaton after the half hour. Right now, visiting with Niall Stanish from The Hill, associate editor at The Hill. So, Niall, Charles Koch says he might actually support Hillary,
right?
Or that she might be better than one of those Republican candidates. What's he up to? He's up to no good.
That's the thing. You always have to work out with him or his brother what the actual strategy is. It seems unlikely to me that he would actually prefer Hillary to any Republican. So is it?
I mean, even on the issue of climate change. I mean, let's face it. These guys are big oil guys, right? They don't think climate change is real,
right?
And they certainly have spent a lot of money
pushing back on the idea that it is real,
right? Supporting Republicans in Congress not to have any legislation. So on that issue alone,
I know. I wonder, is it some sort of attempt to try to erode Hillary's standing further among Democrats, perhaps, or to take away? Not that she's inspiring, frankly, enormous enthusiasm as it is among the activist base, but is it to erode that to an even greater degree because of the idea that he would support her? I don't know.
So I just don't trust him. All right. So tomorrow, Super Tuesday number 3, right? Rhode Island, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and Maryland. Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. Bernie's got to win a couple tomorrow, doesn't he?
He really does. I mean, time is running rather short for Bernie. Obviously, he's run a much more successful campaign than was anticipated when he got into the race.
Boy, I'll say. Yeah.
But for sure, but he would still assert that he has a path to the nomination. That path mathematically is very narrow, so he has to pull some surprises tomorrow.
Which is Rhode Island is kind of considered as good territory for Bernie?
It is. I think Rhode Island would be the one.
How about Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania was a state that they did have some hopes. Most of the polls are showing Hillary Clinton up. She won Pennsylvania back in 2008, even amid, obviously, a losing battle with then Senator Obama. So an uphill battle, but certainly if he did win Pennsylvania, that could be something that shakes the race up a little bit.
It's always a sign of how well they expect to do by where they're going to be on election night. And I read this morning that Senator Sanders is going to be in West Virginia.
Right.
Not in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, which, I was covering the New York primary, and when he announced he was going to be in Pennsylvania on the night of the New York primary, that was signs that there wasn't much of an upset coming,
I think there's a pattern here. Stay one step ahead, right?
Exactly. On to the next stage.
On to the next one, right. Okay. Niall, it's always good to see you, my friend. Thanks so much for coming in.
My pleasure.
Right. And check it out, The Hill, thehill.com. We'll be back with Sarah Wheaton from Politico.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather. But life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine.
Virginia Tech.
Tucson.
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Oak Creek. Newtown.
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 How many more? How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough. 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 Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook. Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday.
It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 Help keep all the presidential candidates straight with your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go, 33 minutes after the hour now. It's The Bill Press Show, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., brought to you today in part by Amalgamated Bank. Yeah, you hear that phrase, a bank with progressive values. I know it sounds like a contradiction in terms, but it's not. For nearly a century, Amalgamated's been the first choice bank of progressive organizations and individuals nationwide. And you know, today we very seldom actually walk into a bank to do our banking business. So you can do your banking online at Amalgamated anywhere in the country and be a proud progressive at the same time. Just check them out at amalgamatedbank.com. President Obama. A busy day in Germany today before he hops on Air Force One and heads this way. Hasn't quite yet. He will be back here arriving at Andrews Air Force Base at 7 p.m. But no matter where he is, Sarah Wheaton is there with him, following every step of the way for Politico. And she joins us in studio. It's good to see you, Sarah. Thanks for coming in. Yeah. This was, so is this sort of, are we going to see like legacy trips like this of President Obama like all this year?
Yes. I think he would hope
visiting all of our friends around the world, kind of.
Yeah. And in this case, it was sort of a little bit of an apology tour. He was visiting some of our top allies who he irritated recently in a big interview with The Atlantic. He kind of basically said that a lot of our allies, whether they were the Saudis or the British or other European allies, weren't doing enough to help America in the fight against terrorism. And so he went partly to try to get them to do more in the fight against terrorism, but also to kind of show that we still have a special relationship with all of them, even though he kind of said some not nice things about them in public.
Right. So let's start with Saudi Arabia. I mean, there's some tension over the Iran nuclear deal because Saudi sees Iran as a real threat for power in that region. And there's also this pressure on the part of the Congress to get the administration to release the famous 28 pages that have been redacted or kept secret for the last 14, 15 years about the potential role of Saudi Arabia officials, maybe even the government, with the 9/11 hijackers. And now rumors are the White House is going to release that chapter.
Yeah, the president is considering doing that, but complicating matters further, and this was sort of a canny move on Senator Chuck Schumer's part. The other debate that flared up just as Obama was getting on the plane to go to Saudi Arabia was whether this legislation should pass that would give American victims of 9/11 the right to sue Saudi Arabia for their potential role in the attacks. And I'm sure that these documents would be relevant evidence. The administration has pushed against this legislation, but it's been very awkward.
Yeah, you've heard Josh say that we could never support this legislation because it would put Americans at risk worldwide. Why? I don't understand that. Why? How?
Well, conceivably, American contractors could also be ensnared by this. It just also, I think, would test American alliances if American courts could kind of oversee lawsuits against foreign governments. Then that just makes our foreign policy a lot more complicated.
By the way, both Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton have indicated they support that legislation. So
right, a convenient way for them to run against the president, and they certainly came out against or in favor of that legislation during the New York primary, where many of the people who would be interested in being involved in such a lawsuit are voters.
Right. So the president leaves us a little sticky situation in Saudi Arabia, and then he goes on to the UK, where he holds a joint news conference with Prime Minister David Cameron and says the big issue splitting the UK right now, in fact, I think it's on the ballot, isn't it, is whether or not to stay in the EU. And the president, which David Cameron wants to do, the mayor of London is leading the charge, I guess, to get out of the EU. And President Obama stepped right into it, siding with David Cameron, saying, in fact, we've got the president here at that news conference.
I believe the UK strengthens both our collective security and prosperity through the EU.
And the president added, nations do better when they don't act alone.
In the 21st century, the nations that make their presence felt on the world stage aren't the nations that go it alone, but the nations that team up to aggregate their power and multiply their influence.
So he really stirred things up. People said, how dare he take sides in this internal dispute? But he'll survive, right, I guess.
Well, right. And it seems to be the people who disagree with him who are angry that he's taking sides. He's popular in the UK. And so the hope by the people who are like Prime Minister Cameron, who are against what we're calling the Brexit, the British exit from the EU, they're perfectly happy to see President Obama come and campaign against it. But we did see the mayor of London say, this guy who's from Kenya, part
that's
Kenyan.
Right. He's anti-British because Kenya was once a British
Kenyan,
colony.
yeah.
That was a reach.
little bit of a low blow.
Yeah.
But Obama tried to use some some British terminology to make the case against the Brexit, because apparently there's been this idea in England that, well, if we drop out of the EU, we'll just get our own special trade deals with the United States. And Obama said, nope, you would be last in line in the queue if you exit. And so that was part of his economic case against this vote.
But I mean, I don't want to get myself in trouble here, but I think he's absolutely right. I mean, I think the EU is growing and emerging as a very powerful force, and for these countries now suddenly to splinter off and go their own way is going in the wrong direction.
Well, that was sort of the theme of his whole trip. And this morning, just a few hours ago in Hanover, Germany, he gave a sweeping speech about the history of Europe post-World War II. The EU was created as a way to try to prevent such a conflagration from ever happening again. And there is real fear that if England leaves the EU, that'll be kind of the breaking point that will just kind of create this cascade that breaks it all apart. But the reality is they are really struggling under the weight of this refugee crisis. Mm-hmm. Just before that, they were dealing with the fact that several of the countries, especially Greece, were having these economic crises, and the rest of the European Union had to kind of prop them up. So there are very genuine motivations for countries to want to leave, and there's a real question whether the European Union has a future.
Now, the president also scored a first on this trip while he was in the UK. He played his first round of golf on foreign soil.
Well,
I must say, don't you think the president of the United States has more important things to do when he's overseas than play golf?
Well, we do. It does seem to be his way of kind of meditating. Yeah. So he's not smoking. So people have got to have their
He played with a round with David Cameron, just the two of them, I think.
Right.
And it looked like it was a pretty cold, rainy day. I mean, the attire they had. Yeah, just
I guess, a little putt-putt diplomacy is maybe just what they need.
Now, all of this was leading up to, so he goes, then he goes to Germany, where he gave, as you mentioned, gave a speech this morning, the big news of which is he announced that he is sending 250 special op troops into Syria, in addition to, we don't really know, I think, how many are there now. But this is a major move and a major escalation in the fight in the war against ISIS, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's another mission on this trip, is to see if he can get Europe to be more helpful in fighting ISIS. The other major audience for the speech that he gave was Russia. In this speech, and Russia's causing a lot of problems for the president because he does need Russia in Syria. He's hopeful that Russia can help restore the ceasefire, which has basically fallen apart. But at the same time, Russia's really been an agitator in Ukraine, and that was a big subject of his speech. He was very critical of Russia for having sort of a fake democracy. He said, people might have elections where they win 80% of the vote, but if you control the civil society, if you control the media, doesn't count as a real democracy. And so President Obama needs Europe to stand with him sort of against Russia and to pressure Russia to be helpful in Syria. But the ceasefire there does seem to have kind of deteriorated.
All right. Now, of course, the administration, if we had a briefing today, the question would be asked, and Josh Earnest would insist that these are not combat forces, right? These are not combat troops. These are special ops. They're just advising. But how long can we continue that sort of charade? I mean, they are performing combat operations or assisting others to perform combat operations inside of Syria.
Right. Well, I think that we will keep up this charade until this president leaves office, and then it will be up to the next president to decide if they want to start their own charade or if they want to do something more transparent and more aggressive. But this president, it's very important to him to have a legacy of having reduced America's combat footprint in the world. At the same time, he's very proud of his record on terrorism, and I think that we will see just kind of this middle middle ground through the beginning of next year.
I'm sure that's what they're going to say, but the fact is there's still combat troops in Iraq. There's still combat. The war in Afghanistan has been extended for another year, and now there are more and more combat troops in Syria, which is the reality on the ground.
Right, and it's very hard to tell exactly what they're doing, because sometimes also they'll say that that they're training, and there was a period last year when they brought more forces to do advice and training of Sunni fighters in Iraq, and they sort of made it sound like they were setting up basic training camps, and that wasn't actually it. They were like training officer level people, and so in some ways it was actually kind of a less concrete thing than we thought. There's the fog of war really is now applying to the way Americans are able to perceive the way that we're sending our military forces abroad.
So the president back in Washington today. Then what awaits him in terms of his priorities for the next few months? Nobody better on top of it than Sarah Wheaton from Politico, covering the White House for Politico. And here in studio with us, a good chance to get a question or comment in for her at 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It occurred to me tonight, for the first time, that the long-winged insect that over and over again rams its body into the wood of my front door might not know what he's doing. He might not have a plan. Maybe that's just how he flies, and that is where the door is. And I remember you. The last time I saw you, a few weeks before we would graduate from high school, and a few days before you let a bullet dissolve on your tongue, dancing in a warehouse rave, sweat-drenched and strobe light battered, thrashing your arms back and thrusting them forward. The floor could get so bright and loud, we all slowed down to be more careful, but you kept dancing full sprint tornado, and sometimes you'd spin full weight into a wall and just spread your arms against it and sway back and forth like a lover reunited. This long-winged insect is not trying to get into the house. It doesn't know there is a house. Can't imagine a life beyond that door. All it can see is the light. You and I were both 17 when you died. And ever since then, I have envied you. How you are remembered for towering, unclaimed potential instead of living to look regret in the face. You didn't have to come home 3 weeks later and explain to your little brother why you took too much medicine. Your addiction is remembered as a tragedy, not a betrayal. Your suicide attempt became a suicide, not an unpaid hospital bill. And only tonight did it occur to me that maybe that night when you let your teeth touch metal, you might not have known what you were doing. You might not have had a plan. Maybe you had hit that door so many times you couldn't imagine it might let you through. I'm still ashamed to admit it, but I have always secretly believed you did it for me, that you wanted to show me that there is a way out of all of this. Not so that I would follow you, but so I would understand that every day that I am alive is a day that I choose to be alive. And when the music stops, you still get to keep on dancing. And when the light is so bright it blinds, you can dance with your eyes closed. And if in that dark you come up against a wall, you keep your arms out wide and you dance with the wall.
12 minutes before the top of the hour, here with Sarah Wheaton from Politico, covering the White House for Politico. So we're in the full speed of this Democratic primary. When is the president going to finally make it official that he's supporting Hillary Clinton?
I think he's winked at it enough times, but I don't think that we'll see him do it until all the primaries are over. So,
really, that whole.
But I'm sure it will be before the convention. But I mean, as we've seen,
as you say, he's really winked at it. So has the First Lady. And then the fact that 4 of his cabinet members have openly endorsed Hillary Clinton, I think they wouldn't do so without.
Yes, and the New York Times reported a couple weeks ago that he basically kind of told donors that they should be sending her their money, and not necessarily Bernie. So.
Right. So coming back here, he's got a couple of big items on his plate. Certainly, one of them is the TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Deal, and which has not been ratified by Congress yet. And then when he was in Germany today, he also talked, it was today, with Angela Merkel about the transatlantic trade deal.
Right, and that's another big reason that he wants England to stay in the European Union is to help make the TTIP, which is the transatlantic deal that we're talking about, happen. And there was an interesting moment in his big speech where he seemed to be talking to people in both the United States and in Europe, where he said, well, people were skeptical that we could achieve a deal that would protect workers and then would protect the environment, and we succeeded in doing that with the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And, he talked about how being a progressive means supporting that type of thing. And notably, both of the Democrats running for president have come out against this Trans-Pacific Partnership. And so he was definitely talking to people in his own party, in his own country, when he was speaking about that. But at this point, as much as the administration would like to see Congress pass the Asia trade deal, it doesn't look likely to happen until the lame duck session, because he needs Republican support, and they're not really eager to stick their necks out for the president ahead of their own primaries.
So the TTIP, right, is still being negotiated, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so it's behind the TPP in terms of.
And that won't happen during Obama's presidency at all. But and certainly negotiators in Europe are looking to see what's going to happen with this Asia trade deal, because that was a huge deal worked out with more than a dozen countries. And if the United States can't ratify that deal after years of negotiations, then why should the Europeans bother continuing with the United States?
Yeah.
If they can't deliver.
Why jump into the deal? Okay. Then the other big item on his plate is Merrick Garland and the Supreme Court nominee, which have they given up on that fight, or?
They have not given up, but they haven't actually really achieved much of anything. And this is a huge source of frustration. Polls do show that voters, including increasingly Republicans, want Merrick Garland to at least have a hearing. But there's still no budging in the 50 some odd people who actually have power over that, which are the Republicans in the Senate. So even though the White House and its allies are winning all their PR battles, they're making zero progress on winning over the Senate. We did see a very remarkable thing last week. Merrick Garland himself, Judge Garland, actually got up and talked. He talked about kind of just kind of a procedural thing within the courts, but we have never heard from a Supreme Court nominee.
That's very unusual for a nominee.
Other than in their confirmation hearing. And there was always thought that they might have the nominee find some way to speak in their own voice, because we knew that there was a pretty low chance that they would get a confirmation hearing. And so history was made in a very sort of quiet way there last week.
But that may change in the lame duck too, right?
It's totally possible, if a Democrat wins the White House, and Obama has said that he will not withdraw the Garland nomination, and if Republicans are worried that a Democrat might nominate a more liberal justice, then they could do that. But I'm genuinely curious to see if McConnell would assent to something like that, because he does seem to be somebody who sticks to his guns, and he has said that he is not going to confirm Obama's nominee no matter what. So he would just really have to go back on what he has said to do that.
All right. But again, back this evening and then back to work at the White House. And Sarah, all this time off that you've had for the last week or so, back to the daily grind,
exactly.
Right? All right.
Well, and pre-White House Correspondents' Dinner
oh my
festivities.
God, how could I forget the big party this weekend? It's prom weekend coming up for all of us. Yeah, indeed. Great to see you, Sarah.
Good
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks.
Politico.com, and I'll be back with a quick parting shot.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
You taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that. Say hi!
How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, just a few seconds here, but I do want to commend Donald Trump for taking the right position on North Carolina's outrageous HB2 of the bathroom law. It's a bad law, Donald Trump said, not only unnecessary, but discriminatory. And for him, he said the solution is simple. Transgender people should use the bathroom they feel is appropriate. A lot of Republicans are alarmed at the prospect of having Donald Trump as their party's nominee, and rightfully so. But this is one issue, gay rights, where they could actually learn something from Donald Trump. That's it for today, folks. Come back and see us again tomorrow.
This
We'll be
is
looking
the
for
Bill
you.
Press Show.